so I'm the bad news. So thank you all for coming today. I was saying to Mark and Peter, I'm usually the last person most companies want to see uninvited. Usually means you've been hacked, and it's somewhere between an undertaker and a tax official. So my name is William. I'm from Content Security. We're one of the Australia's oldest and probably largest cybersecurity firms. So we look after government, enterprise, some of the largest companies in Australia, from the Reserve Bank to Fairfax. You name it, we probably have them as a customer. And very happy to work with CSU around this. I'm going to touch on I guess a modern cyber attack methodology, what we typically see for SMEs. We specialise from anything from counterintelligence, espionage, but today it's pretty much an example of a targeted attack on a business from a cyber criminal's point of view. What we typically see when we're asked to come in to do forensics and incident response. So I'm going to give you some context. I am the bearer of bad news. It is a little bit confronting what you're going to see. You've got a specialist here with Peter to show you what businesses can do. And I just want to show you the extent of this problem. My industry in itself, we've been doing this for quite a long time, is under tremendous pressure. We have a tremendous skill shortage. And I'll just delve into this a little bit. So first of all, this is quite a dramatic backdrop. This is just to give you a taste. This is actually a live threat map. It's something, a project I was involved in a previous role, deploying threat sensors around some of the biggest companies, global governments around the world. And these are sensors on perimeters, and it's showing you the amount of automated cyber attacks happening right this second. This is just a small sample, by the way. There's hundreds of millions a second that are happening. Each one of those is pretty much being successful at the moment, and I'll show you what happens when you have a zero-day exploit, which will come through. But anyway, just to show you from a level of interest, people don't understand that it's not somebody behind a keyboard doing it. This is all completely automated. It's been set up by cyber criminals. Some of this is actually governments attacking other governments, but it shows you an indication of how quickly it goes through. I've also got a couple of videos to show you some examples of other techniques that are not cyber related. So this is pretty relevant to us. When we speak to businesses about have they ever been a victim of a cyber attack, hopefully most people say no, we haven't, or that they're prepared for it happening. But what I can tell you that every cyber incident that we've ever responded to, it's pretty much a very confronting experience. People behave completely differently to what they thought they would, or they thought their firewall would have saved them from modern threats, and it's just simply not the case. I'm going to run through some attack vectors that will completely bypass your firewall using nothing more than your voice. I'm going to quickly talk you about unknown. This is Donald Rumsfeld in the late 90s, and it's going to give you an explanation about unknown unknowns, and it's a very powerful story.
There are reports that there is no evidence of a direct link between Baghdad and some of these terrorist organizations.
There are known knowns. There are things we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
Excuse me.
So what he's trying to say there is that it's when you're looking at cybersecurity, it's the unknown unknowns that are the most scary. You don't know when you're going to be hit, you don't know how you're going to be hit, you don't know who's hitting you, and you don't know what they're taking. So they're unknown unknowns. It's a very hard concept to grapple because you're essentially trying to protect yourself against something you don't know what's going to happen. So if I look at just the last 12 months, some of the attacks that have happened. Now these are attacks that have made the front page of the newspaper, and this is just a small sample. This is the tip of what's actually happening. These are the ones that the companies have either fessed up or have had no choice but to contact me to say we've been the victim of a breach. Some of them are big companies. You're looking at Aussie Farmers Direct, Queensland TAFE, Kmart. All victims of quite sophisticated and unsophisticated attacks. I mean, I can do this all day in the amount of times. Just recently, I presented this for the Queensland Law Society and made it quite Queensland specific, but I could just as easily make it easy for you in New South Wales. There was a couple there that stand out to me straight away. Top right-hand side there, Akamai kicked on the top one there, a record cyber attack. That was the world's largest DDoS attack. It was extraordinary, something I've never seen before on a scale that even blew away most of my team. But just locally, my office is opposite Brisbane City Council, which is Australia's largest council, and they were hit by you could technically call it a cyber attack, but it was a spoofing email. All they did was change an invoice, changed the email address, sent it to the CFO, said, by the way, we're one of your suppliers, our banking account details have changed. This is only bank account details when you pay the invoice. Thank you very much. Nearly $500,000. It wasn't an IT problem, it was just a very, very quick email. No real policies and procedures in place there, which is a fundamental thing when you're trying to protect against this type of thing. Everyone remember the census? I wrote on my staff board, census will go down on the night. It was inevitable it was going to happen. It was too attractive a target for criminals to say, listen, you've got everybody logging in at the same time, putting in their personally identifiable information. It was just, it was extraordinary that it even got to that stage. And then even more recently, does everyone know about the WannaCry outbreak happened a couple of months ago? Got a lot of press coverage. That happened. Also, a couple of protocols have also been broken. SHA-1, which is a security protocol. Also WPA2, which is your wireless protocol, was just cracked last week, which would effectively, if you haven't patched it, makes it vulnerable to attack. And then you've got things like Edward Snowden. Now, WannaCry was the result of some very, very powerful espionage tools being stolen from the NSA that got into cyber criminals' hands. When we were made aware of this and we got our hands on a sample of this, we were blown away. These were tools that we were using in the industry from a defence point of view that should never have been available. They were stolen right from the NSA, and I'm going to show you what happened when the criminals actually took that vulnerability, merged it with a worm, and what happened with WannaCry. And it actually escaped the cyber criminals' grasp before they were just trying to play around with it, but it was so potent that it went global. And I'll show you what that looks like. And this was the resulting press after that attack. It was extraordinary, global meltdown in the billions of dollars in terms of there wasn't a sophisticated but it took down train stations. People actually died as a result of this. Result of this because they couldn't check into hospital their procedures. So there was actually a body count attributed to this. Not even touching on the financial. But let me just show you what that looked like when it happened. It happened on a Friday. And what you have here is a worm. Is a worm that had. So does anyone know what ransomware is? That basically it had ransomware on your computer. It encrypts your data, and you have to pay a ransom to get your data back. And this is exactly what happened. But this will give you an idea of what this looks like from a graphic point of view. From Eastern Europe. Each one is a major attack, major breach. See how, in terms of a contagion, how potent it was. My previous role was the chemical warfare specialist. When I changed from conventional warfare to cyber warfare, this is why you can see the similarities. That was a relatively, I would say, unsophisticated attack. If I was to make a prediction of what's going to happen when someone puts two and two together and puts that against a 0 day, now it's not a link. We wanted it. It's not a 0 day. If that gets pointed at your critical infrastructure, your dams, your power supplies, your telecommunications, and you don't have the right patching, it can be catastrophic. And it's only a matter of time until something like that happens. The big giveaway was, everyone knows about Microsoft patching. You know, Patch Tuesday, once a month, Microsoft releases a patch. It usually has a couple of security patches and everyone's supposed to do it. The giveaway was Microsoft released this patch, I think it was on a Thursday. In the history of Microsoft, they've never released a patch on a Thursday. It's always waited until Tuesday. And that's a big warning to say, listen, they've found a vulnerability that's exploitable, and it means patch now. So if I talk about the rise, I'm going to show you, I stopped doing this graph in 2014 just to show the landscape. Every year has been a record year for us in terms of trying to deal with this. It just keeps growing. By about March, we'd seen more activity than the whole of the previous year, and the previous year was the same. It just goes on this extraordinary scale, and it just keeps growing. I mean, there's no end in sight. We've got more and more people connecting to the internet. We've got more and more people using devices. You've got this whole IoT. Everything we have has an IP address. It's being developed by people with no security expertise. It's not their fault. They're just out to market, get it in there. But it creates this amazing activity and the availability to create botnets or swarms of these connected devices that if they're infected, and it only takes a couple of seconds to infect these devices, creates a very powerful weapon that you can point them to. You can become a bot master, point it at somebody, a website, and you can quickly take it down. I'm just going to jump onto another graphic here just to give you just a broad view. That's actually not doing it justice. This is a graph showing the world's biggest data breaches. Now, I started doing this in around about 2002, and you can see here, I scroll a little bit slowly, what's been happening here. So you can start to see a couple of big data breaches. So back in the day, 2004, these were big data breaches, 92,000 people. And then you can suddenly see, as people become more connected, the size of the breaches and the frequency of the breaches. We get into 2008, it was starting to get very busy. 2009, we were getting into some huge ones. This one here by the US military was a very serious breach. That was every single person who applied for a job in the US military. And then it's just exploded. I mean, you can hardly fit it on here at the moment. And you're looking at massive, millions and millions of people's credentials. Yahoo's the standout here, 1 billion email addresses and passwords stolen. And we're going to touch on the value of your credentials, your username and passwords, because this is what it's all about from a cyber crime point of view. And we can just keep doing this all day. It's unrelenting how much it goes. Growth is exponential. And you can also see the attack vectors, or I guess what you call the types of attacks. So back in the day it was viruses and worms, and it was pretty much people experimenting. And then DDoS, which is a denial of service, taking down people's websites. And now we're into ransomware, hacktivism, people who are trying to make a point, state-sponsored crime and espionage. This is nation-states attacking each other. Industrial espionage from the usual suspects is on a scale that we see constantly, people's IPs being compromised. Merger and acquisition documents being used for financial gain, next generation bots, and then we haven't even touched on artificial intelligence and machine-based learning. And it all comes down to the vulnerability of a single PC. All you need is one PC within your organization, one PC even in your home network that may have malware on it. It just takes one piece of malware for any number of these things. I apologize if you can't see that very well. What we're going to focus on today is around about stolen credentials. Credentials is the new gold. It's not about banking information anymore. Your money is insured by banks. You'll get that back within 24 hours. But you can't get back your username and password, or not really your username and password, but your identity. You can't get back your mother's maiden name. You can't get back your date of birth. When those are compromised, and people have your identity, they can do all sorts of things. They can get access into your accounts. They can create false identities. And that's really what we're trying to raise awareness of with this type of forum. And I guess the top threat attack vector is email. It's the number one vector for cyber criminals to get in. So everyone would have received a fraudulent email. everyone's, I'm assuming, had the fake AFP or the Australia Post email, click on this. Has anyone actually clicked on it? Has anyone had a cryptological attack? Well, that's how it's delivered. Excuse me. And yeah, it's just an extraordinary rise in it. It's very, very easy to socially engineer people to click on the email, scaring and frightening them. Sorry. And the reason why this is because cybercrime is now a commodity. It used to be a very specialised area. It used to be white hats versus black hats, people who had highly technical skills, who knew how to exploit vulnerabilities. But it's just not the case now. What you've got is very, very powerful tools now able to be downloaded or bought online from 10-year-olds. And it's the equivalent of giving an AK-47 to a 5-year-old. These are very powerful tools that in the long hand can cause extensive damage. This is an example that I've taken down, I took last week. This is a cybercrime syndicate selling DDoS. You can hire these guys for $10 a day to take a competitor's website out. They'll even offer a money-back guarantee. The support is fantastic. It's better than what you get at Telstra. It's brilliant. Yes, sometimes I think I'm on the wrong side, but these guys are very well organised, offer brilliant service. As I said, money-back guarantees and customer references.
I've heard now that, I've heard now that the latest thing that they're doing is that they'll deliver that to you with a back door.
Yes.
And after you've taken all the risk and put it in place, they then take over.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And from an operational security or intelligence point of view, we specialise in this area. We're seeing your usual crime syndicates, your Russian crime gangs on the Gold Coast, your Asian crime gangs in Sydney, your Middle Eastern gangs, now collaborating with cyber criminals. These gangs will offer operational security advice to cyber criminals to say, listen, this is how you communicate, this is how you withdraw money, this is how you cash out. And they've got some very powerful contacts around the world. So they're getting very sophisticated. They're learning how to communicate using Blackberries or encrypted channels. Very hard for police and law enforcement, or even for us to detect. And basically, a lot of this, again, is freely available on the dark and the deep web. Does everyone know, has heard of the dark web and the deep web? So the deep web is basically anything that's not indexed by Google. The dark web is a subset of the deep web, which is a Tor browser. It's a special program which allows you to basically chat semi-anonymously with criminals. And on there is a marketplace. On that marketplace, you can buy everything, and it's a confronting place to be. There's everything there from hitmen to child pornography to drugs, but it's a haven for cyber criminals. There should be some electronic weapons, and you can buy stolen identities. But it's really easy to do. Anyone can get onto this marketplace and deal with very, very dangerous organisations. We're actually seeing criminals moving out of this now. This used to be their go-to place, but now it's so full of undercover agents, private security consulting firms like ourselves, gathering intelligence, that they've actually started to move out there. So as you can see, the criminal organisations, that they move, they merge, they're very, very flexible and dynamic. What I'll be talking about today is what's called the cyber kill chain. So this was pioneered by Lockheed Martin. It's very relevant. It describes the phases of a cyber attack. Now, I run a bunch of ethical hackers, cybersecurity consultants who are what we call white hats. They're there to break into companies. We get paid by companies and governments to break into their organisations and exploit them using the same methodologies that criminals would do. And then we show how to mediate and protect against that type of thing. The black hats are basically criminals. But what we're doing today is actually walking through a cyber kill chain. And we'll go through each one there, from reconnaissance, weaponization, delivering exploits, installing command and controls, and acting on objectives. And you'll see how this is relevant. Ideally, after this, and you're very lucky to have Peter here, Peter could talk to you about the controls and technology that you can put in each place to stop this. The most difficult to stop is your reconnaissance. This is if you're not looking after your identity online, if you're disclosing publicly available sensitive information online, it's very hard to protect against that. So one of the questions we ask when I'm even interviewing my cybersecurity guys who are new into the job is to say, how would you break into a house? You know? And some of my top guys will give me 100 ways of how to break into a house. You know? So, you know, can I use you? How would you break into a house? Give me one way. Okay, brilliant, right? Criminals are lazy. They're inherently lazy. The easiest way to break into a company is to use a key. If you get the key or the alarm code to get in, it's much easier. It's the lazy way to do it. You don't have to go into bars. You don't have to kick the door in. The key in this presentation is your identity. It's your username and password. That's what criminals are after. Because if I have your username and password, I can bypass even your most expensive firewall. All that expensive technology that vendors love to talk to you about that will stop an attack happening. If you don't protect your username and your password and your identity, there's no point spending hundreds of millions of dollars or your hard-earned budget on security controls if you don't get the fundamentals in place. And again, what we're trying to talk about is awareness. Awareness is probably the most powerful tool against protecting against cyber criminals. So let's begin. I've created a fictitious company. That's called a big law. It's a small to medium law firm, broad practice, 35 employees. The key here is particularly lawyers, accountants. I mean, most companies store their clients' data and third-party data. This is commercially sensitive, but it could be things from names, data, pay slips, payroll details. All of this is very, very attractive to cyber criminals, and that's what we'll be going after here. So forgive me if I'm going to put my black hat on. I'm just going to show you from our examples, and we deal with a lot with forensics, what we typically find for a company of this size, how they are breached, and what methods they've used to bypass, rudimentary or pretty basic controls. So step one is intelligence gathering. That's the reconnaissance, and it is really, really easy. What the objective is to do is to deliver you an email or get you to click on a link that is quite targeted towards you. And we can do this from LinkedIn to Facebook to any of the forums that you go on to. And it all comes down to social engineering. Now this is extremely powerful. This is the psychology of convincing people to divulge information that should really be personally protected. So it's a manipulation of the natural tendency to trust. Now we do this quite successfully when we go on to penetrate customers or clients. This is pretty much the number one vector that we can get in. A lot of my guys can actually break into companies within the first 10-15 minutes by social engineering staff. LinkedIn's another great one. Does everyone have a LinkedIn? Anyone have a LinkedIn account? Anyone had invitations from people they've never met and wondering why I've been, sent an invitation? Well, it's a very attractive way of getting through. Now, the male species is particularly vulnerable to this. We typically deal with one case of cyber extortion a week, and it's usually from somebody saying, I'd love to link in with you. What they're trying to do is get you to connect with them, and then they will reach out and try and entice you to have a phone conversation, or send you, or ask you your email address so they can send you some information about themselves. Now here's a quick tip if you do want to give the kids a little bit of an insight. If I was to receive that, if you right-click on the photo, paste that into Google, it's a great little security check that will say if that photo has been used in multiple identities. If I do that, right-click that photo, paste it to Google, you will be able to see that that's been used in 20 different LinkedIn profiles. You'll know that this is not legit. It's a nice quick check. It's not 100% bulletproof, but it's a good way to get lots of LinkedIn invitations. I'm going to show you a quick clip here on social engineering. This is an American social engineer. We do this. It's very powerful. It's going to show you how easy it is to get someone who hasn't been trained in proper policies and procedures to give your account details, names and details. And you understand the point that I'm making here, that this is not a technology problem. This is a human problem, and cybercrime is very easy to do when you don't have proper policies in place.
So I invited a few of the world's best hackers to try to hack me and show me where my vulnerabilities are. And now I'm going to meet them in Las Vegas for DEF CON, the biggest hacker convention of the year. They're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
You want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation. And basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it. Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today, so I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
At gmail.com?
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to